is to own something like Canplats that they take over. Most of the position that I have in seniors is a consequence of having sold them juniors. So, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Meaning that's the biggest way to get the bang for your buck.
That's right. It's the cheapest way to increase your shareholdings in the seniors, owning the juniors that they subsequently take over.
Before we move on, Rick, you have what I think is a very unique firm over there. And I don't want to sound like I'm plugging your global resource investments, but the reality is you built a whole staff, not of brokers, but, and we've brought this up on the air before, but of geologists, meaning whether it's uranium or whether it's something in the gold and silver space, you get an entire staff of people over there that can look at results, get on the phones with clients, and not only know through your connections the people that are in the industry, but also what's happening in terms of the results side, correct?
Well, feel free to plug my firm anytime you want to.
But it's very unique. What I'm saying is other firms just haven't done what you've done over at Global Resource Investments.
Yeah, what you say is absolutely correct. As I've built the firm over time, I have found it virtually impossible to hire a stockbroker and turn him or her into a geologist or engineer. I have found it easier to hire a technically trained person and teach them enough about financial markets that they can use the knowledge that they have to teach their clients to perform better. Both my mother and my stepfather were educators, and I attempt to help our technical people become educators as opposed to salesmen in the context of what we do. The second thing that's helpful for people who have a technical background, a technical education, is that they believe in the concept of an objective reality. And that's very, very, very important in extractive industries. There are facts in extractive industries, and too often people, particularly in junior stocks, are attracted to story rather than fact. This focus on story and this focus on momentum almost invariably has a very, very, very unhappy ending. People who can establish within a range what the value of an asset is and then compare their estimate of the value of an asset with the price that the market is according that asset are in a place to play the arbitrage between price and value to their advantage. Those people who pay attention to the story but have no idea about the underlying value will almost always inevitably become a victim of the market rather than a beneficiary of the market. And by hiring geologists and engineers, people with a point of view that's associated with objective reality, we think that we have the best probability of helping our clients become beneficiaries of an inefficient market rather than victims of an inefficient market.
And as we go through this cycle, just very quickly, for the institutional listeners globally, you keep picking up institutional clients because they're coming into the space and they're very comfortable with how your firm is set up to handle them as either a hedge fund or just a straight fund, correct?
Yes, we're fairly picky about institutional clients, actually. We find that many institutional clients have made promises to their own investors that are very short-term in nature. And we don't think that investing or speculating in natural resources involves a series of short-term decisions. We think, as an example, that unlocking value in a junior exploration story, which is really a function of answering some unanswered question, probably takes a minimum of 18 months. So if an institution comes to us with a short-term trading strategy, we try and politely explain to them that our knowledge base is not suitable to their goals. Hedge funds and institutional investors that are attracted to contrarian strategies or deep value or institutions that started off in the oil and gas or energy sector and understand the nature of what we do are increasingly attracted to us because I think they find our candor refreshing.
Let's move on to, because people are going to want me to ask you about uranium and inflation in closing. So can we tackle uranium very quickly?
Sure. You know, I was a big uranium bug in the 1998 to 2002 time frame when uranium was really, truly stupendously cheap. I will admit that I was quite early relative to when the boom actually took place. But the amount of money that we made by being early was so large that it obviated the time value of money problem. Uranium ceased to be a contrarian investment in the 2004 to 2007 time frame. It was stupidly overhyped and stupidly overpromoted. I would suspect that the uranium equities will continue in a down channel for as much as another year as the excesses that occurred in the bull market get worked off. But what's happening right now is that the uranium space is quietly behind the scenes building value. An enormous amount of money was raised in the 2004 to 2007 time frame. Most of it has been wasted, but some of it is being constructively employed, and we are beginning to see the roots of the first sustained exploration effort for uranium in 25 or 30 years. I note with particular interest the discovery made by Extract in Kalahari in Namibia, the Rossing South discovery, which we see going above 500 million pounds. The first absolutely world-scale discovery in the uranium sector that we see coming out of the last cycle. So we see some good work being done with the money that was raised at the same time that the market continues to decline of its own weight on a momentum basis. On the demand side for uranium, we see very, very, very good things, the current credit crisis notwithstanding. Uranium provides very high-quality baseline electricity, and uranium is an extremely efficient generator of electricity in the context of how much power can be produced relative to the size of the resource required to produce it. That's very important for distant or island economies. Places like Korea, Taiwan, Japan have the ability to buy and store enough uranium that they can shield themselves from global political or military risks, which is very, very, very important. And as a consequence of that, despite the political problems that one encounters building new nuclear capacity in the United States and Western Europe, new nuclear capacity is being installed fairly rapidly in Asia and other places that can afford it. In fact, the United Arab Emirates, including Qatar, which has the second largest gas reserves in the world, recently commissioned almost 5 million megawatts of nuclear power because they believe it to be a cheaper and more secure source of fuel than their existent world-scale natural gas supplies. This is extremely important. The second thing that's important to know is that the price of the uranium which goes into generating electricity is very low, meaning that the uranium feedstock may be 2% or 2.5% of the total cost of delivering electricity. Capital costs, lobbying, things like that are important components. And what that means is that the price of uranium can go up a fair bit without it raising the price of electricity enough that electricity demand falls. As a consequence of that, a bank that's financing, say, a $5 billion reactor in Japan will increasingly require the plant's operator to either have owned inventory or locked-in supply of uranium for the entire period of time that the loan is amortizing, which means that the utility has a positive incentive to establish a long-term supply relationship with a miner, which will lock in security of supply for the utility and security of revenue for the mining company. This is going to be a really historic advantage for the worldwide uranium industry. It will lead to the easier ability to finance the construction of uranium mines, and it will lead to a level of price stability for offtake in uranium that is absolutely unique in the mining business. So I'm extremely bullish about uranium in the 10-year time frame, less bullish about the prices of uranium explorers in the 1-year time frame. But I will definitely be increasing my exposure to this sector in the next 2 years. My hope is that people will quit the uranium market in absolute disgust next year and sell their shares to me at extraordinary discounts. It is my belief that 10 years from now, they'll be clamoring in the market to buy them back from me, and I will have been able